All right, let's get started. We're not here to talk about motivation. We're here to talk about schematics. Think of your body as a high-performance biological machine. The problem is, most of you were never given the user manual. It's time we change that.
So let me ask you this. Why are you operating at suboptimal capacity? You know what I'm talking about. The daily fatigue, the brain fog, that persistent lack of focus. So many people just attribute this to some kind of personal failure. That is incorrect. These aren't character flaws. These are symptoms. Symptoms of a system malfunction.
And look, these aren't random failures. They are predictable system errors. It's exactly what happens when you try to run your biological hardware on incompatible environmental software. I'm talking about the constant pings of chronic stress, the flood of artificial light at all hours, and the endless stimulants. These are the bugs in your code.
So, here's our plan for today. First, we're going to confirm that your system is, in fact, malfunctioning. Then, we'll run diagnostics on 3 key systems: the sleep pressure gauge, the circadian master clock, and the brain's cleaning crew. Finally, we'll put it all together in the biological optimization protocol. Okay, let's dive in.
All right, Section 1. Your system is malfunctioning. You know, the first step in solving any engineering problem is to identify the bugs in the environment. And let's be clear, your biology is in a constant losing battle with the modern world it was never designed for.
Okay, let's run our first diagnostic. We're looking at System 1, the sleep pressure gauge. This is all about a chemical called adenosine, which you can think of as a literal physical counter inside your brain that measures exactly how long you've been awake. So what is adenosine? Well, every single moment that you're awake, your brain is burning through energy. Adenosine is the exhaust, the byproduct of all that metabolic work. And this is absolutely crucial. It is not a feeling. It's a physical, measurable compound.
And this chart shows you exactly how it works. You see that? Throughout your 16 or so hours of being awake, adenosine just builds and builds and builds. It creates this undeniable, inescapable pressure to sleep. Then, when you finally get into deep, slow-wave sleep, the system gets flushed out, completely resetting the levels back down to baseline.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, especially for all you coffee drinkers out there. We have to reframe what that morning cup is actually doing. Caffeine does not give you energy. Let me repeat that. It gives you zero energy. It's an adenosine antagonist. All it does is jam the signal. It sits in the adenosine receptors, blocking them, so you can't feel how tired you actually are. It's a mask.
And that, of course, leads directly to the dreaded caffeine crash, right? Because while caffeine is blocking those receptors, adenosine doesn't just go away. Oh no. It keeps building up quietly in the background. So when the caffeine finally wears off, all of that pent-up adenosine comes rushing in and floods the newly opened receptors. And bam, that's the crash. That intense wave of sleepiness is your body finally telling you the truth about the sleep debt you've been hiding from. Okay, on to our second diagnostic. System 2, the master clock. This is your body's internal 24-hour operating system, a tiny cluster of cells deep in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, that governs your entire daily rhythm.
So how does this master clock even know what time it is? Well, it gets calibrated by signals from the outside world. The 2 big ones are light and temperature. When you feed it the wrong inputs at the wrong time, say bright light late at night, the entire system gets desynchronized. It's like your body's operating system keeps getting the wrong timestamp.
And speaking of temperature, let's focus on this number for a second. -1 degree Celsius. This isn't a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable biological command. A drop of just 1 degree in your core body temperature is one of the most powerful triggers for sleep that exists. Not just in humans, but in all mammals.
So what does this mean in practical terms? It means your body literally has to dump heat to fall asleep effectively. That's why a cool room, right around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 Celsius, is so critical. It helps your body make that temperature drop. In fact, many people with insomnia have a dysfunction in this exact mechanism. Their core temp just won't drop when it's supposed to.
All right, time for our final diagnostic, and this one reveals a process that is absolutely critical, yet most people have never even heard of it. We're talking about the brain's nightly maintenance cycle, its waste clearance system. And here's the kicker. It only turns on when you're deeply asleep.
This is called the Glymphatic System. The easiest way to think about it is as a dedicated cleaning crew for your brain. All day long, your neurons are firing, doing work, creating metabolic waste. The glymphatic system is what comes in at night to flush all that toxic junk out.
So during waking hours, what's happening with this system? Basically nothing. It's essentially offline. The channels in the brain are constricted and there's very little fluid flowing through to clean anything out.
But then you go into deep sleep, and everything changes. This is where the magic happens. The space between your brain cells actually expands, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to rush in and basically power wash the entire system. It's clearing out all those neurotoxic proteins that build up during the day, things you've probably heard of like amyloid beta and tau. And this brings us to a hugely important distinction. Biological sleep is not the same thing as sedation. When you have a couple of drinks to help you sleep, you're not sleeping. You're being sedated. These substances actively suppress the deep sleep stages, the very stages you need for that glymphatic cleaning crew to do its job. So you wake up with a brain that is still cluttered with last night's metabolic waste. Okay, so we've run the diagnostics, we have identified the system failures. Now it's time for the solution, the biological optimization protocol. And let me be very clear, these are not hacks. These are precise engineering principles designed to get your system running optimally.
Step 1 begins the moment you wake up. Your first job is morning calibration. Within the first hour of waking, you need to get direct sunlight in your eyes for a few minutes. Why? Because you are sending a powerful good morning signal to that master clock we talked about. This single action anchors your entire 24-hour cycle.
Next up, daytime operation. This is all about managing your caffeine intake. The rule is simple. No caffeine within about 8 to 10 hours of your planned bedtime. You have to stop masking your fatigue. You need to let that adenosine, that sleep pressure, build up naturally so it can do its job and make you sleepy at the right time.
And finally, the evening shutdown protocol. This is where you engineer your environment to support your biology. Lower your thermostat to that cool 65 degrees, and critically block out bright, especially blue, light from screens for 2 to 3 hours before bed. You are sending unambiguous signals to your system that it is time to power down and initiate the maintenance cycle.
The science on this is settled. As the neuroscientist Matthew Walker says, sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day. This is not an opinion. It's a biological imperative. You need to treat this as a non-negotiable part of your daily protocol for system restoration.
So that brings us to the final question. Are you going to keep guessing with your health, relying on quick fixes and stimulants, or are you ready to start engineering it? The choice is to operate your biology with precision and with intent. The protocol is clear, and now it's in your hands.